Hey everyone, Jay here. I'm going to be taking a break from the attic and the crawl space today to tackle some of the odds and ends things I need to do before the insulation guy comes. I'm going to be taking out the shower, tearing out the old gas line and some old plumbing, and just kind of cleaning up the place. I've kind of let it get away from me a little bit. I have tools everywhere, some materials, and I'm going to be moving a lot of it out to the garage and throwing the rest away. There's really not much more to say, so I'm just going to get started.
I'll spare you the suspense right now and go ahead and tell you that no, you're not going to watch me picking up tools all day. Instead, I'm going to be removing the water lines and the gas lines from this place. When I bought this house, the gas company wouldn't come anywhere near it because they knew that all the gas lines were leaking very badly. They said that I would have to replace it before they would come out and turn on my utilities. Since I was looking at doing the plumbing and putting in the hot water heater, I wanted to go ahead and get ready to replace the gas lines. When you look at how these lines were run, it's really no wonder they were leaking. They were run outside the house, above the ground, and even buried in the concrete that was used for the sidewalk going to the backyard. In order to come back with the corrugated steel gas tubing that I was going to use, I wanted to go ahead and eliminate all the traces of this bad tubing. If you've worked with black pipe before, you know that you have to start at one end and thread all the pieces together in line as you go. Since I was trying to start in the middle, it made unscrewing the first few pieces rather difficult. I was basically just trying to get it so that I could get rid of what was outside running into the garage, and I wasn't going to worry that much about the rest that was run inside of that building. At least not right now. I'll come back and do that later. Things got just a little bit dicey whenever I was trying to take apart what was coming over the footer inside the house. Since I removed the piece going through the wall holding that T in place, it made it really hard to work with what was left. I ended up having to take off all the little components and unthread this top piece coming out from the bottom plate before I could get rid of that weird elbow underneath. After getting rid of most of the gas line, I moved on to the water lines. The water lines going to the kitchen sink were buried under the dirt, probably about 5 or 6 inches, and most of them were corroded pretty badly. Every time you turn on the water, it was running brown, and there wasn't a single fixture in the house that wasn't leaking. It looked like there were 4 or 5 different places that rivers had been running underneath the floor. I'm really starting to wonder what I would find if I dig through the outside of this wall. So they have this old one capped off. I think they tied into this existing cast iron down below, tied it in outside. Highly likely. Probably find out soon enough.
Oh my lord! Oh, that's not how you do plumbing. It's not how you do plumbing. It's okay.
Yeah, so go ahead and add septic to the list of things I need to do too. Getting back on track, there was a washer hookup hidden behind the wall. This had been behind the cabinets in the kitchen, and I didn't even know it was there until I took the paneling down. They had completely closed it in, and there was no trace of it. You could see that the tar paper hidden behind this cavity was damaged pretty badly, and the seams were very exposed. Back then, I guess they just cut through all the bottom plates whenever they were trying to install plumbing, because that is common throughout the entire house. They must not have had drills back then, or they were too lazy to use them. I don't know which. It might be a factor of time or the amount of corrosion that was inside these pipes, but they were so hard to remove. They were the hardest fixtures in the entire house. I don't know what made them so difficult, but I struggled. And struggled on those for quite a while. After this day, I kept joking that I could take apart a house with nothing but a pipe wrench and my foot. So almost every joint I had to step on in order to break it loose. Now, yes, there are other ways to have done this. I didn't have a reciprocating saw at the time, so I went ahead and just undid everything with the pipe wrench. If I would have had a reciprocating saw with a metal blade, instead of this taking 3 or 4 hours to take everything out of the house, it probably would have taken me about 30 minutes. So if you're going to do this, go ahead, invest in the right tools. I can't get those 5 hours of my life back. On the topic of time saving, putting in PEX is going to be much faster than coming back with more rigid pipe like this galvanized or with copper. I know that it's going to go in much easier, and I'll be able to do a lot of work around those footers and under the joists without having to be as meticulous as to put in all these 1-foot pieces with all those joints. Now that I've removed most of the piping out of the kitchen, I'm going to go ahead and move the shower out of the bathroom. We did most of the work the other day, or the other night, but the tub is still there. Got to get the panels out of the living room and the insulation out of the wall. So let's go in there. And here she is in all her glory. See the shower stalls with this plastic locking stall mechanism thing. I went ahead and just removed some of that because I wanted to see how much mold there was in the cavity. Look at this. They did not water seal that at all. And it is nasty. Based on that texture that you see up above, where they had these plastic white panels, I think they actually used to have tile in here, and then they put up a prefabbed shower stall kit. We'll come back here and tile it whenever we're done. I don't like those prefab shower stalls. I was very curious what I was going to find while taking the bathroom apart. It's hard to know what you're going to be getting into when the plumbing is as bad as it was and everything was covered up. This was just going to be one of the jobs that was hard to gauge until I started digging into it. I had a feeling things were going to be a little, shall I say, rough in here because I knew that there were open gaps around the shower stall and that water isn't rated for a wet area. That does not bode well for things being in good shape. Inside the wall by the shower valve, the water was consistently leaking, and not just a drip every now and then. It was more like a stream going down underneath the house. Once I discovered that it was going to be leaking all the time, I wasn't able to use the water on the property until I got most of this stuff replaced. I actually tried to save the bathtub. Whenever I started trying to take it out, it was underneath the sheetrock, which is installed correctly, surprisingly, and I ended up bending it too much to salvage it, so it went in the yard with the rest of the trash. Well, I thought I was going to be able to get it out with all the stuff in the tub still. No such luck. If there's one thing I need to improve at, it's keeping my workspace clean. I'm always losing tools, I'm setting stuff down and forgetting where I put it, or I'm not cleaning up my messes fast enough, and it really eats into your time. That's a mark for improvement later on. You can see the entire tub installation here. That joist is actually cut underneath. It was bolted back together later, and a few of the studs were floating without a bottom plate. So there were massive holes in there. A lot of bad air was flowing up through the crawl space into that wall cavity, and that's the kind of thing that makes houses very inefficient in terms of energy. You know those tasks that you just can't seem to get around, even though they're really not too big? Removing this drain pipe from the washing machine was one of them. I couldn't get past this thing no matter how hard I tried. It was so stuck in place and corroded. I probably worked on it for about an hour by myself. I sprayed WD-40 down into it. I did just about everything I could think of, trying to brace with my legs, trying to use a crowbar to pry it, sort of like a lever. It wasn't going to budge. That's the kind of stuff that can kill your mood really fast if you're not careful. It kind of makes you unmotivated to go ahead and work the rest of the day because you have so much trouble with the first thing that you try to tackle. It happens to the best of us. Just work through it. Can you sit and push on this guy while I try to pry it, see if we can get enough force that way?
Sure.
So don't sit your back on the drywall. Try to use one of the
I have
studs.
a stud.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah. Okay, ready?
Yep. 1, 2, 3. Push hard. Push hard. Push hard.
Okay.
Hey!
Wow.
You broke it!
Oh my gosh. Wow.
Okay. Good job. Thank you.
Good.
Working through those sort of obstacles isn't exactly fun, but I'm going to say that it builds character. At least that's what they tell us, right? Anyways, with all that being said, I'm going to go ahead and call it quits here. If you like the video, go ahead and throw me a like. If you want to follow this renovation from start to finish, go ahead and subscribe, and I look forward to seeing you next time.